wanted to do a little video about hickory nuts. These are shagbark hickory nuts. They're a little, one tree I found this year, this is how most of them look from the trees around where I collect them. One or two trees have this slightly different shape, but they are all shagbark hickories. And so what I'm doing here is cracking out nuts for a couple of reasons. This is going to be ground more finely and make palco hickory, which is the hickory nut milk essentially. Whatever comes out super easily, I'm just taking as nut meats, and we're going to make a hickory pie in the style of pecan pie, because that's the genus that these are in, and they taste almost, well, not indistinguishable from hickory from pecans, but very similar. So then, as I crack them in the master cracker, I just take out whatever's super easy, put it in there, and then whatever doesn't want to come out, I don't fuss with it at all. I just drop it into here, and then I'm going to pound this more finely, and then we'll simmer that pretty much for a few hours until all the oils and the oils come out, and then the starches are left in the nuts, and then they float to the top, and it's an incredibly, really nutritious drink. And to address the issue of efficiency, the number one thing that always comes to mind when you're working with wild nuts is that, my God, I can't believe I've been cracking nuts and this is all I have. I think I've been cracking nuts for about almost half an hour, maybe 25 minutes. That's not a lot of nuts. Of course, there is all that, so that's pretty good. So you start to wonder, well, why are we going to spend so much time on something that doesn't yield that much? Well, it does yield a lot, and you just have to figure out exactly how you're defining yield. So this is a paper called Foraging Models, Niche Construction in the Eastern Agricultural Complex. It's all about the Eastern Agricultural Complex. What a tongue twister. Which is, there's no super fast way to summarize it, but the Northeast of America was the site of crop domestication unrelated to other origins of crop domestication. And a lot of that was annuals, but they also did a lot of perennial management, and hickory harvesting was a really important part of that. They propagated them as well, and they tended, thinned, and burned in certain hickory forests. And so this is an interesting table here. It's almost, the first time I looked at it, I almost thought there was a misprint, because harvest rate in kilograms per hour, 57 kilograms per hour of hickory nuts versus 5.2 to 9.5 of walnuts, and 1 to 1.5 of chenopod. That's Chenopod berlanderii, which was sort of like lamb's quarters, but it was a domesticated version of lamb's quarters, which no longer exists. So the harvest return rate right there, in terms of kilocalories per hour, that's the really interesting one, is you're investing time in doing something, how much energy do you get per unit of time? 47,900 calories for the calorie return rate on hickories versus 6,000 to 11,000 for walnuts, 2,300 to 4,300 for chenopods. So of course, the annual in the middle here, the annual pseudo-cereal, yields a lot more per hectare, but in terms of spending time, what that means essentially is that because the hickories fall from the tree like this, they're just ready. All you have to do is dry them and preserve them through drying, and make sure they don't get a ton of maggots or anything like that. Make sure the squirrels don't get them and mice don't get them and whatever. But all you have to do is collect them from the ground. They're already, the husk has already come off. Here's a quarter of the husk. They just fall off in these neat little pieces, and you just pick them up off the ground. That's all you have to do. These, once they're dried, are storable for 4, 5, 6 years. More than that's probably pushing it, even 6 maybe pushing it, but they're storable for a very long time as long as the shell is intact. And you don't have to crack them out like this. This is sort of what we're used to when you go to the store. You see cracked nuts, but all you really have to do is take full nuts, put them in a mortar, and pound them with a pestle. So all you have to do is crack the nuts, smash them into bits, not worrying about separating the shell and the nut meats, and then simmer it down. All the good stuff floats, all the shells are on the bottom, and away you go with all of the fats, the minerals, the nutrients, the carbohydrates, everything. So in many ways, harvesting hickory and using hickory for food is actually a really efficient thing to do, more so than growing annuals. The yield is of course not as high per acre compared with annuals, but what this means is there's really no better way to use your time. As far as food harvesting goes. So anyway, I hope this helps to change the perception a little bit of how quote unquote worth it is to be kind of acting like a squirrel in the fall and picking these up off the side of the road and all of that crazy stuff. It ends up being extremely worthwhile. It just depends on how you use it in the end. So I'll try to do an update if we end up making this pie.